In addition to providing lubrication, the oil in a VW engine also provides most of the cooling, so it is essential that it is kept fresh. Changes should be done every 3,000 miles or so, or at least a couple of times a year. This job will be best done when the engine is slightly warm but not hot, so that the oil is thinner and runs more easily. The oil drain plate is located centrally at the base of the engine. Some plates have a magnetic drain plug in the centre which can be removed with a 21mm socket, but this one hasn't, so we will be removing the nuts and bolts that secure it. Make sure you have a suitable catch can in place, and don't do this on a windy day. Oil will blow everywhere. And don't forget that you must dispose of the used oil safely by taking it to a suitable recycling centre. Use an angled extension on your ratchet to keep your arms away from the flow of oil once it starts. Crack open each nut or bolt with the ratchet, which will start the flow of oil, then carefully remove them completely. Now this particular engine has been terribly neglected, and all of this sludge will need carefully cleaning out and maybe even flushing before we can refill it. Normally you wouldn't see anything like this. Next we're going to use a screwdriver blade to carefully prise out the oil strainer and the final paper gasket. Make sure you don't scratch the aluminium surface as you do this. Again, this example is far more dirty than you would expect. Normally you should be able to clean it up with a bit of brake cleaner, but in this case we're going to fit a new one. After the oil is finished dripping, you can remove the catch container and dispose of it safely. We're actually using the special JK drain here, so we can just fit the plug and carry it away. Give the area one final clean and make sure there are no little bits of old gasket left on the surface. If there is, then you can carefully use a flat blade to remove them. Before you start to refit the strainer, inspect the securing bolts. Make sure that the threads are completely clean and replace the old crush washers with the new ones that come with the gasket kit. Note that the plate is secured by a mixture of M6 bolts and nuts. Generously smear both sides of each gasket with standard grease and then keep them in a clean, grit-free place until you're ready to fit them. Fit the first gasket to the clean surface, then carefully place the strainer over it. You will need to make sure that you line up the holes as you do this. Then fit the second paper gasket and finally the sump cover. Using a small screwdriver you can help to line up the bolt holes, but be careful not to damage the threads. If yours didn't have a magnetic drain plug in it, we strongly suggest that you buy a new one from Just Kampers to make the next oil change much easier. Carefully fit the nuts and bolts together finger tight and then go round each in turn and tighten with the ratchet. They don't need much torque, so be careful not to over tighten them. A VW engine needs about 2.5 litres of oil, but to begin with put about 1.5 litres in with the car still up on the stands. If you wish, you can remove the flexible hose to give you better access to the oil filler. When you're sure there are no leaks, you can lower the vehicle down onto the ground, but then leave it for maybe 10 minutes to settle with the vehicle level. Then carefully complete the fill-in, just a little bit at a time. It's important not to overfill the engine, so keep checking that level as you put in the last few drops.